and they'll keep sponsoring the show. Okay? Or if you call them up directly, just say, hey, Ed Opperman sent me. Good old Ed Opperman. Okay? Anyway, what was I talking about? Who knows? I'm so tired. I just want this day to be over. I want this move to be over. So today, this week, another thing that came up was George Nader. Now, George Nader first hit the news because Mueller was investigating him because he was sent to the Seychelles Island to meet with Eric Prince and this Russian oligarch on behalf of Donald Trump. And as soon as his name came up, the first people to do a show about this and discuss this was myself and Pierce Redmond when we discovered that he had these child porn arrests and a child sex abuse conviction. I believe it was in Germany or Eastern Europe, something like that. A very fascinating guy, was negotiating with Khomeini and stuff like that. A lot of different connections with the Arab Emirates, you know, with this other pedophile too, by the way, with the AEU. The United Arab Emirates, I believe it is. Okay, anyway. Oh, boy. Now, turns out that this George Nader guy, he had this arrest for possession of child porn, but it got dismissed. They dropped the charges based on a technicality, a legal maneuver, okay? Due to the search warrant, which is valid, you know. You got a criminal defendant, you know, you got a invalid search warrant. The guy's got rights, even though, you know, he's a creep. Has connections, got his way out of that. But the thing is, you got an arrest for child porn, you got a conviction for raping little boys. This guy was able to get into the White House to meet with Flynn, General Flynn. He met with Kushner, Jared Kushner, Steve Bannon, and there was one more. Oh, man. Flynn, Bannon, Kushner. Anyway, he met with that bunch. And some other ones, too, in the White House. Now, any high-level meeting, first of all, in order to get into the White House, you have to give them your name, your date of birth. They run you for criminal background check. Okay? And any high-level meeting with people at a certain level, they got to run a cursory little background report on, a little credit report. They're going to see who you are, what you're like, and you know, are you serious enough to be meeting with? There's no way on earth that prior to this meeting that General Flynn didn't run a complete background check on this guy and know about this criminal conviction, know about this arrest. Just didn't happen. He was provided with that report. Maybe he didn't read it or whatever. I'm sure someone would have brought it to his attention. General Flynn, there's something here you want to look at. Okay? Otherwise, that guy should be fired. Okay? There's no way that happened. So this cast of characters knew about Nader's background and his proclivities. They looked the other way. They didn't mind. They continued operating with him. Nader gets picked up by Mueller. They want to talk to him about this trip to the Seychelles Island with Eric Prince and this other character. They take his cell phones and some of his stuff like that. They go and examine his equipment. They pick him up a second time on his way to Mar-a-Lago. And in that phone that he had on his way to Mar-a-Lago was child pornography. Now, some of this child pornography, people think child pornography, some of this was so disturbing. There was a young little boy, toddler, like 4 years old, having sex with a goat, okay, an animal. So this isn't some guy who likes preteen porn, innocent kind of guy, you know, oh, cute girl. None of that, okay? None of that. This is serious, extreme perversion, sickness. Now, for some reason, our news media, when they give you that list of all the people that have been arrested due to the Mueller investigation, George Nader is never included on that list. Never, ever, not even once. He's in a separate category that he's not included in that list. We have a list of Trump associates. Mueller investigates them. They get arrested for lying to the FBI. They get arrested for tax things, not registering as an agent, foreign agent. All these things, unrelated, they list them. But this guy gets a pass. Never mention him. And it turns out I don't want to be one-sided because this guy's got connections, too, to the Clintons as well, too. In fact, the charges he originally got picked up on were related to illegal campaign donations to the Clintons. So don't think by any chance that I'm some kind of fan of the Clintons or I'm some kind of fan of Obama because I report to you that this guy was deeply involved with the Trump administration, met with the high levels of the Trump people, including his national security advisor, General Flynn, and was on his way to Mar-a-Lago with child porn. Okay. He was also deeply involved with the Clintons, possibly Obama too. Okay. My point is, why isn't this guy on the list? He pleads guilty this week. It looks like he's going to get about 30 years. Okay? Within hours, not even a full day later, General Flynn withdraws his guilty plea. How do you like that? What was Flynn waiting for? Why did this instigate him to withdraw his guilty plea? Flynn had to be worried about something else. Another hammer dropping down on him. And he was just waiting. And when he saw that maybe that Nader wasn't making a deal against him, that Nader had not made a deal, now he decides he wants to withdraw his guilty plea. That's what it seems to be to me. That's what it seems to be going on. I've been involved in a lot of criminal defense cases over the years, since I was a young man, 19 years old. And conspiracy cases, RICO cases, organized crime cases. And one of the things that they'll do is you'll have a guy, he was part of the group, but then he decides he's going to flip, he's going to become an informant on the rest of the group. So they have something called a free talk where all the defense attorneys will meet with the prosecutors and they're all in this room and all question this guy and open questions prior to trial. And what you'll do is let's say this guy, he's going to rat out the boss on a cocaine deal. So he agrees with the prosecution. He's going to tell them the truth about everything he knows. So the defense attorneys will dig up some dirt and say, hey, your brother-in-law, isn't your brother-in-law involved in a stolen car ring? Hey, what about your accountant? Doesn't your accountant help you launder your drug money? So this guy now who's sitting there just thinks, well, I'm going to rat out this one guy, and I'm going to keep my head down in jail. I'm going to do 18 months. I'm going to get out. Now finds out that all his friends and all his relatives and all these guys that maybe he's scared of, that their names are coming up too. See, people don't realize that when they're going down that road. And it seems to me that's the kind of thing that went on here that's going on. Because these are plea negotiations that everyone's involved in here. They're all negotiated criminal sentences, all of them. Stone, Manafort, Flynn. We've never had this many people getting busted in a White House before, in an administration, going to prison left and right, man, for all these different charges. Okay, real quick, because I got a lot of stuff here. Let me just put a pause here, and then we'll get to it. Okay, last but not least, there was an interesting story that came out this week about Lev Parnas. All right, this is one of these Ukrainian guys that was working for Rudy Giuliani. And the thing is, Parnas, we looked this up real fast, surveillance. He was doing surveillance on this ambassador over there in Ukraine. And it came out, because he came out now and he did this interview with Rachel Maddow, and he's done a ton of interviews with everybody all over the planet. And it came up, these text messages come up with this character named Hyde, who was a Trump Hotel gadfly hanging out with Roger Stone and those kind of characters that was over there in Ukraine. And they're claiming that in doing a surveillance on one of our ambassadors over there that got kicked out at the direction of Rudy Giuliani. And when you read these texts, it looks very sinister, as if they're plotting to murder this woman. Okay? And Parnas does these interviews, and he says, no. That guy Hyde, he's not reliable. He's drunk all the time. He's a little crazy. He's a little weird. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. you want to think, well, this is a bridge too far. I believe, that maybe Trump withheld the money, the aid to Ukraine, and maybe he lies here and he lies there, and I don't like his tweets, and he's a racist. But they're not going to do a murder. They're not going to murder this ambassador. Rudy Giuliani would never go that far. He's the mayor, former SDNY prosecutor. He's not going to go around doing hits and murders and stuff like that. Although, look at 9/11. Okay, the guy was up to his neck in that, right? There's a little-known story. And I can't tell you everything I know about this story, but I know enough about it that I can talk about it. And I'm going to play a tape of it, about it. If you go back and listen to one of the first shows I did with retired NYP detective Jim Rothstein, I think it was the first interview I did with him, we started talking about this little-known story about Leroy Nicky Barnes, who was this 1970s New York City heroin dealer. And Nicky Barnes, I know a little bit about this because a friend of mine was the police officer who arrested Nicky Barnes for bribery. So I know a lot about this story. And what happened was with Nicky Barnes was, and if you watch the movie, I think it's called Gangster, American Gangster, with that kid Denzel Washington, they try and make Frank Lucas to be the big shot. Nicky Barnes, no, it's the other way around. Nicky Barnes was running things back in those days. All right. And it's a really funny story. The whole bribery story is really funny. I can't tell the whole thing because it's private. But it's a hysterical story about how Nicky Barnes was, just dug himself deeper and deeper and deeper all night long. But what happened was Nicky Barnes gets busted for his heroin operation, and he's sitting in prison. And he's trying to run his operation from inside the prison. He's got his guys outside. They're still working the company there. And people start to betray him. And he finds out that his ex-partners are out there sleeping with his ex-wife and his ex-girlfriends. They're driving his cars. And they're not kicking up the money the correct way. And they're taking over his business. So what he tries to do is he tries to get a couple of his guys, loyal hitmen, and he sends them into the nightclub there. And he says, I want you to go in there and kill my enemies. But instead of doing that, instead of going there and killing the enemies, they go in there and they sit down with the enemies. And they sit down and they start eating and drinking with them, partying with them, instead of killing them. So Nicky Barnes has nowhere to turn. So I want you to listen to this carefully. I'm going to play it for you. Let's see if it's set up.
William Tendy is executive U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. The call to him was made by Barnes from the Terre Haute Federal Prison in Indiana.
Tell me what it is you have in mind.
They were a couple of friends of mine that were supposed to be doing things for me,
Yeah.
And well, they're doing things against me, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no way to reach out to get to them, and I want to get back at them, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's my primary reason.
Were you surprised that he was going to do it?
I was surprised that a person like Nicky Barnes would do it, but when I ultimately found out the reason why he was doing these things, it made sense to me.
For Barnes' cooperation, he has now gained many supporters in the Justice Department.
Okay, now did you catch that? Nicky Barnes calls SDNY, which was Rudy Giuliani's office at the time, and he reaches out to this investigator, and he says, there's guys out there that are supposed to be doing things for me, but they're doing things against me. I got no one to reach out to over there, so I'm coming to you. And that's why I want to make a deal with you and become a cooperating witness for you. So they cut the deal. He becomes a cooperating witness for SDNY, Southern District of New York, which was run by Rudy Giuliani's. Rudy Giuliani was the Attorney General, prosecutor. What happens a couple of weeks after that conversation? After they cut that deal? That same nightclub, Nicky Barnes' enemies are sitting at that same table. But this time, and remember Barnes said, I got no one to reach out to. The guys are supposed to be doing things for me are doing things against me. I got no one to reach out to. I'm reaching out to you. A couple of weeks later, same nightclub, same table, same enemies. This time, 2 white guys come in and shoot up that table and kill Nicky Barnes' enemy.